directly to questions. We remind members of the press to please state your name and media organization before you ask your question, and please keep it to one question. Kenzie?
Thank you, Excellence.
Much. If they were doing it quietly, people would get confused and start saying that maybe others are actually responsible for all that they are seeing. But the good thing, they come out and say it. They agree one thing in Washington or even in Doha, and that is made public. Then the next day or week, someone says, no, we are not going to do this and this until something else is done. And even when what they are referring to has also been under discussion. And whether in your mind you agreed or not, what has come out of you, if it's on record, you definitely have a problem explaining why you would agree one thing in the room, and then when you are out in speaking to the media or to whoever, you say a completely different thing, or even renege on what you actually said you're going to do. So that is one part of it. But somehow we've been limping through this all the way. Some things done, others not, others half. And now, maybe, possibly, with the time taken and effort, we'll find ourselves in Washington, which I should have started with. I think the fact that there is even a possibility of meeting in Washington and discussing or agreeing or signing anything is a good effort. For all the years before, we haven't had anything like that. We have had people come visit us, visit Rwanda and Congo, and rush to the UN and the Security Council and make decisions and make announcements and pass resolutions. That's why in the first years, we spent a lot of time on that without really having anything tangible in place. I think this process or the two processes, one in Washington, another in Doha, but talking about Washington, it's a good step in the right direction. Whether we arrive at a decisive moment that gives us a clear possibility and optimism that we are near finding lasting peace and so on. Yeah, it's something we can still continue to hope for and work towards. But at least there is that possibility, there is that framework that we is in place, and the Trump administration seems to have done their best. You know, some of these processes will not work, not just because we are meeting in Washington or the powerful United States is involved. Yes, they have a big role to play. It's what I was praising them for, having made a huge effort. But until those people concerned directly, they themselves want and commit to achieve the end result, which is stability, peace, and security for all that needed, even the most powerful will remain wondering which way to go, or frustrated, if you will. So the onus is on us, mainly the people, the leaders, DRC, Rwanda, and others in the region. You know, Washington took over this when there were also other efforts underway. I'm sure maybe one of you will be asking, or you yourself had it on mind but didn't raise it. You would be asking, what is the East African SADC process? Because they were there. Or the AU, or whatever. That speaks volumes. And the reality is that the knot is tied in one place. These problems are happening in Congo, but it seems the leaders don't care or don't know, or they have refused to take responsibility. They just keep daydreaming and talking about all kinds of things, and whenever they've gone all places, the only thing they know how is to keep asking sanctions for Rwanda, sanctions for Rwanda. Okay, but if you sanction Rwanda, how does it solve your problem? How does it solve your mismanagement of your country affairs? How does it give citizenship rights to the people who have been complaining for decades and have had to take arms and fight you? How does it solve the problem of you having to import mercenaries to come and fight for you? How does it do that? I mean, you know, people should really see things for what they are, and you may hear so many stories about different things, but you also have the ability to see through all that and make your own judgment. So, summary of so much I have said, I'm always optimistic. Always hope there is a chance another day, and the following day. But I remain prepared to take care of the business I have to take care of.
Thank you, Mr. President. Albert?
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for this press conference. Kind of a follow-up on where we started. At the same time that we have a meeting coming up in Washington eventually, at the same time you have a narrative that has been developing in these last weeks and touching on something that doesn't seem to be the way it is presented. Talking about humanitarian crisis that is incredible, millions of people displaced in Eastern Congo, that people need to have access to Goma, and that is especially developed in Europe, for what we can see. So sometimes also it reminds me of 10 years ago, or in 2012, 2013, what is this thing about Goma? Because as soon as M23 took in 2012 Goma, the whole world went cuckoo. And now again, everybody wants to have access to Goma. So what is there? Because it's at our doors. At the same time, I believe that after 25 years, to have MONUSCO there, which was also part of the forces that, beginning of this year, were shooting at Rwanda. I mean, for Rwanda, this becomes something that maybe needs to be taken up. Like, how long can a force like that still stay there? And especially that they've been part of the belligerents attacking Rwanda. Mm-hmm. So what is this thing about Goma that nobody knows?
Well, Goma is near a volcano, which sometimes erupts, and so maybe that seems to be the factual thing about Goma. The rest are just stories. But from what you started saying, what is it that didn't actually originate from Europe? You asked something about Europe, and you are saying the stories about Goma and so on are originating from Europe. But what is it that didn't originate from Europe about this story or about this problem? If you look at the whole history and the old history, but even the recent history, you have had Europe always in the mix of things in and between our countries, and even to do with the crisis we have in Eastern Congo or the region. For about Goma, I don't fully understand. And talking about humanitarian crisis, yes, there is suffering. There is no question about it. But actually, it seems there was more suffering before the crisis, or at the beginning of it. As of today, I think the suffering is still there, but maybe less. But to talk about humanitarian crisis so much is is to find an entry point, an easy entry point into that crisis, and then shaping it the way some people want, given how they have been relating to this history I'm talking about all along before. You cannot talk about just crisis or humanitarian crisis without highlighting the root cause of that. And people have always avoided bringing up matters to do with the root cause, because in the end it exposes people like that. So there is always a way to shape things in a manner that there is effort to protect themselves, the people I'm talking about. And is it a new crisis in Eastern Congo or in Goma or around Goma? You remember this crisis, I have said this before, and you have heard it even from other people, or you know it yourselves. This crisis was there 2012, came back 10 years later. Why can't people try to understand? What is it? How can you have a problem 2012 and 10 years later you have a repeat of the same problem? It means, but yet, for those 10 years, we had this international presence. And many years before that, supposedly to address these problems. So much money spent, so many people involved, people losing their lives in big numbers, refugees, people displaced, and but life goes on like that until we are visited by the same problem, and then we start running around like this is a new thing. I mean, the amount of hypocrisy and even double standards and real insensitivity of some of these powers that we know, who are associated with the cause of these problems, or who accompany the crisis in a way they have chosen, and in the end they are the ones making so much noise about, they look like they are really hurt by the suffering of people. These are people touched and offended by people suffering. But this is just trash of pretense. If you are like that, you have heard people talk about values, you see our values, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of nonsense. If you have the power of everything, whether political, money, or whatever, and then every day you're talking about values and so on and so forth, and even want to teach others how to respect values, yet you are the cause of the suffering, and you are the cause of the perpetration of that. What kind of pretense is this? And you can't just, so when you see these people, coming out with a lot of anger on this and talking about, you see us, you've made a mistake, we are going to do this. In the end, all they are doing is adding more suffering to the suffering that is already there. It's not actually addressing any problem. So Goma, but if anyone wants Goma, that's fine. For whatever reason, whether it is ritual or, some believe in witchcraft, they would want to go and pray in Goma and meet their witch doctors there and so on and so forth. Still, you know what? Goma it's not functional as of now, but it is in the hands of some people. You go and talk to them. But if I were the one, now let me be myself, let me tell you the story. If I were the one, you come and I'm the one controlling Goma, and you come to say, I want to use Goma. I say, fine. But these are conditions. Goma is part of my problems that I face with the government. And now it is in my hands. I will not give it to you until you show me, alongside that, how you address my problems. Well, I may sound speaking for these guys, but I'm just reasoning. If I were the one, you want Goma, you want Kavumu, or Bukavu, or you want the whole of Eastern Congo back, fine. I have no problem with that. It will only come with you addressing my problems. You understand? In my long history, in my judgment, that is what I learned over so many years of fighting for my rights and for, people have, they sacrifice, they do what, but unless they have no reason they are sacrificing, that's a different issue. But if everything should be put together, you want this, I'll give it to you. I have no problem. But we came to this point because of this reason. So if you don't address that reason, how do you just expect you cause problems, and then you come and say, and this I'm saying because, again, for me, what you see is what you get. We used to tell Congolese from the beginning, when we would be in the discussion, and it's like you see leaders behaving like, it's like, you must do this, you must do that, and they are the cause of problems. So I used to tell the leaders of Congo that asking or in order for us to have security in our country and have peace and that we have fought for so many years in the past, you know, it's a must. We must give each other peace. I can't ask anybody for peace as a favor they are doing to me. No. For us to have peace, I beg you, and you have to do me a favor to give me my peace. That's a different world I don't live in myself. I cannot ask anybody to do me a favor to have Rwanda secure or to have my right. Well, initially maybe I can ask you to do a favor, tactically, I can say, please, I beg you, I can even kneel down if you want. But if you don't give me my right, then it means a fight. We will fight, no question about it. So there is no way where I'm concerned, you can do me a favor for my right. Who are you after all? Who are you to have everything, including my own right, that you can control? How? Who are you? What gives you that right or power to be able to do that? So I've given you more than you really wanted, but Goma is part of the problems we have in Eastern Congo. And yes, Goma should go back to its operations as an airport. But what is it that stopped it being so in the first place? So you must address that. You want to address humanitarian crisis. I agree. There must be a way of doing it, taking on board the fact that there is what is causing the humanitarian crisis, and that must be addressed. Right? So, anything else about Goma?
Well, somehow there is also another side of the whole story that has been kept repeated, especially now it's still alive in Europe. It's about the looting of minerals and all of that. I mean...
Again, that is nonsense.
Exactly.
They looted minerals better than anybody, worse than anybody I know of in history. So would you even listen to that? Minerals? Minerals, they sell minerals in, what is it? In Antwerp, in where is
Antwerp.
Diamonds.
Diamonds. But there are no
Do they produce diamonds? Or they have gold, bullions they took long ago and they are adding more? Do they have a lot of gold really? Do they have gold mines? These Europeans? They take it, okay. To make their case even simpler or less than it is, they may even say, no, but the gold or the diamonds or whatever we have is brought by legitimate people, okay? Would you believe that? But that legitimate, when they are there, they are the legitimate ones. So, but this whole thing, why do you think, by the way, there is something to do with there is an MOU actually we're supposed to be having with Europe, which involves, I think, and a lot has been worked on about traceability and so on and so forth. Okay? Rwanda got involved in that and passed every stage and standard that was expected on that. Now, what is funny and contradictory is, at some point, then DRC goes to Europe and says, no, don't sign anything with, but how do you not sign anything that was supposed to be transparent and show where the minerals are coming from, or who is involved? So on one hand, you want to be clear that there is nothing except that Congolese always passed through here, and some sold it here to Rwandans who went and sold it to somebody else. Others, they said it through Burundi, through Uganda, through the neighbors. But it is only Rwanda that was picked on about minerals. Simply because, I think with the audience back home in Europe, they listen more to these accusations. The more they hear of them, then the more questions they raise about Rwanda. Whether what they are saying is happening or has happened or not. So, minerals, really think, okay, FDR, that actually at some point was in control of Goma, or the surroundings of Goma. Why are they found to be innocent in the whole equation? And yet every day we point out things to do with FDR. But they are not interested. They say, no, they are few. Well, if they think they are few, they should come here. We will take we give them face-to-face conversation with those that have been brought from Eastern Congo recently. They will tell them the stories. But do you think they even want to do that? Haven't some of you journalists, maybe, I hope you're also not selective about what you want to know. Haven't you asked to go and meet these people who have been brought from Congo, the FDR, to tell you their stories that show you how they are so embedded and intertwined with the Congolese forces and other systems of government? So that plays behind the scenes role, and you don't see it at the forefront being talked about. In fact, some of these FDR have been doing mining in Eastern Congo. Where do they take their minerals? Maybe those are the minerals that end up in Europe, but they would rather hold Rwanda responsible based on the stories around minerals. What sense does it make? You know, don't sometimes we overrate people. We overrate them in a sense. We think they have, when it has been said by Europeans or by this, then it must be true. But these are the things they get involved in. Petty things. And without borders. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one more question about Goma from Romain Gras of Jeune Afrique. The question says, President Macron said on the sidelines of the G20 that the M23 and those who control Goma Airport have not made the necessary effort to reopen it, stating that the administrative conditions have been met by the DRC. What steps need to be taken to achieve progress on the airport issue?
Well, I don't know, what is being referred to as the government of DRC having met what? I don't understand. That they met what?
The administrative needs.
What are administrative needs? To the best of, I don't know what, first of all, the meaning of what he had said. For example, are you aware that the airspace in Eastern Congo is actually closed? You can't overfly. You have people flying from wherever, whether South Africa or going there. Or planes don't overfly Eastern Congo because DRC government closed their airspace. Now you want to open an airport in a closed airspace, and he says somebody has met the standards, administrative standards. I don't understand the meaning of it. Second, those M23 and others who control what? Who control them? You mean M23 who control or M23 and others?
And those who control.
Ah, okay. Could I equate it with saying, maybe he wouldn't like that, the government of DRC, the FARDC, and FDLR. FDLR actually has a big control in that area. They are being fought every day by the M23, even before those who control the airport come in. So would President Macron wish to say something about FDLR? I don't think so. You know the reason? There is a whole story about FDLR and those others from Europe who talk about the airport, those others who control it other than M23. There are those others from Europe who control FDLR. That's why they are always quiet about FDLR. you see always when issues about Eastern Congo, about Rwanda backed M23, and then we went to FDR, they are really whispering. They don't even want anybody to hear it. And then for government of DRC, it's some individuals who get involved in these wrong things. It's not the government. I mean, this is selective way of presenting issues and even wanting to address matters sensitive like that based on how you have selected to handle it. I think it becomes part of the problem, by the way. That's why I was saying those others, other than those who control the airport, but from Europe, have been part of this problem as of origin of 31 years ago tragedy we had here. We've been associated with that. Maybe with time, if those things keep coming up, and the way they have been, we will say more about that. I think if they think we can be silenced to not talk about their historical role and responsibility in matters of tragedy here in Rwanda, and which crossed into Congo, and people are there. You see hate speech, you see all kinds of by leaders. And those others in Europe tend to minimize it and don't even want to talk about it. But then they talk about Goma, M23, and the others who control it. Who control both? I mean, I guess they mean who control M23 and who control Goma. Yeah, but there are those others also who control from the same place where the voice control from the same place where the voice came, who control government of DRC and control FDLR. And that's why FDLR, people keep quiet about it. But, well, if they want us to roll back the whole efforts of the understanding of how we should relate based on
keenly at the recent Unity Club forum, where you challenged Rwandan leaders to reflect on what's holding Africa back. And I remember you talking about feeling that this is linked to leaders who pursue individual gains. For the close to 20 years I've been in Rwanda, I reflected on this, especially listening to people who have been serving in different quarters. And when someone tells them, "No, komeza gutyo," urisanga kuri yellow paper. Urisanga kuri yellow paper. And they say, "Reka, reka, 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 reka." And the reka, reka, reka is not because they don't want to serve, but because of the pressure to deliver that leaders in this amazing country go through.
The pressure to deliver without apology.
Exactly, yeah. Yes. And this brings me to the question of your style of achieving this culture. I know of countries where people will kill each other to get those positions of leadership. But here, not everybody can take that pressure to deliver without apology. So if you were to deliver a lecture at President Kagame's School of Leadership, what would those three things be that you'd say about this subject of servant leadership that happens in this country? And then the East African community, the momentum seems to have died out. Checking on ground, people feel like it's not the same pressure, the same momentum that was there. I know in this room, half of the people might not know who's the current chair of the ESC Heads of State Summit. It's not like long ago where there was a lot of hype around this. Something must have happened, Mr. President. I don't know if you also feel the same. What is that might have happened? And what do we need to do to be able to bring back that momentum that we had about this fastest growing regional economic bloc? Thank you.
Well, to start with the last, I think you hire different people. You hire different leaders and see if, and just serving yourself and being proud that you've done something for yourself, except you can do that only if you are delivering something. Because if you are leading people and you are delivering and you see the benefits reflected in the lives of those people, then you can have personal satisfaction and pride. So this is different from what I started by saying. If you lead and you're so much involved in what you can do to benefit yourself, that's the opposite. I can only serve to benefit myself by being satisfied that my role as a leader is benefiting those I lead. Well, but that then becomes the theory. the broader theory or philosophy of leadership. But we also know that more importantly, there is the practice of it, the real tangible results you can see and hear from people. That makes the biggest difference. So with that understanding, which I think many people have, the rest becomes a choice of how you are going to live your life and the purpose of any service or leadership role you may be playing. We can learn the theory, but in the end, the practice is ours. Yes, you can study and have degrees bestowed upon you about leadership, and you can be an expert and be there actually teaching leadership, and everybody moves out of the room energized and feeling on top of the world. But the moment you step out of the door, the choice is yours. How you use that energy to fulfill the obligations that the theory was talking about. So it's not an easy thing. So you can therefore have this and match it on to what you asked about East Africa or whichever entity or institution. We have to keep trying. We have to keep challenging one another on the basis, at least, of this theory, and then tying it with the practice and say, but we are saying these right things in this institution, but the practice seems to be coming out differently. So you have to agree that's how issues of accountability come in, because people they understand the theory but have failed on the practice, and they are causing damage to those they did. And therefore, that's when you say, if you are found to be doing this and you run into this and you are causing suffering, then measures should be taken. By doing it intensively, I think you reduce on the damage that is caused by bad leadership. So, as you said, at a personal level, I also confess, I tell you, I have no apologies to make for. And then I tell my people, you know it very well. I have said, by the way, when you get tired of me, get rid of me. I'll walk away without any, I will not fight back. If people say, no, you're becoming too much, insisting, both, too much is not just in time. Too much can also be how much you do in time that disturbs people, okay? But accountability and the desire to have results is not for the half-hearted, no. So by nature, I found either I'm doing it, unless somebody shows me saying, what? There's something wrong you are doing. I listen, by the way. I also have ears, I have a sense of trying to listen and learn, but if nobody comes up, and we all agree that what we are doing is the right way to go, on that one, I push everybody in my domain as much as I can. But age is catching up with me, so I have some reduced energy, not like I had 25 years ago. But I still have, I can still bite. I still have some, right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Vincent?
Morocco's Excellency, Vincent Gassana, Katie Press. Bear with me, sir, I'm going to go back to the DRC crisis, which continues to cause instability, insecurity, and of course, devastation for the people of Congo. It seems to me, sir, that the main factor perpetuating the crisis is what is a determination by certain Western governments to direct away from the attention away from the causes, underlying causes of the crisis, and instead just seeking to make Rwanda some kind of sacrificial lamb for every sin to do with the DRC. Now, I appreciate, sir, that Rwanda does not have the power or the influence of these nations, but it is nonetheless a sovereign nation, a sovereign member of the United Nations, African Union, and other similar bodies. I wonder if there are any mechanisms within these bodies where Rwanda can table motions to hold these governments to account, not just to give Rwanda respite, but most importantly, really, for the sake of the people of Congo who suffer the most from what is a profoundly egregious cynicism, which this government seem to think works in their interest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, again, it's, I can say we are trying, and we'll keep trying. Maybe every day that comes to pass has brought something new, and looking forward to the next. But this is the state of affairs in the world we live in. There are these things that are never straightforward, and much as we may deny it and keep running away from it, it's that saying, having might tends to make people right, or give them the right. So we have had this for a long time. They might tend to think they are right, and they don't care, even when they realize that what they are involved in is wrong. But as long as it benefits them one way or the other, they will take that direction. They don't care about you, and especially when it comes to we Africans who are even ready to accept it. It's like Africans, we are happily exploited. We tend to, be so subservient that somebody does wrong to you, and the tendency is for the Africans to be the ones to apologize. You get offended, you get hurt, then you are the one to apologize. And really can't keep blaming somebody else other than ourselves. Why do we? So, but we can't keep quiet. We always raise these issues. I'm sure there are many who are capable of doing that and who want to do that. We all can't be silent in this case. So while our power is limited, it's not like theirs. One, we have to reject it, that we can't just be treated the way we are. The second is we even have some way of fighting back. Fighting back includes to keep exposing the truth about all these lies and the suffering that is brought upon us, we Africans. Of course, that requires you have to have people who are like that, but then above all, you have to have a coordinated effort. That's why there is always a search for African this. You are talking about, you are from Pan-African something. Yeah, the Pan-African means really working together, finding like minds to, and not accepting that we can, whether at individual level or at a collective level, we just have to. So there is always a moment, there is always a chance, there is always a place where even speaking up and speaking out makes a difference. That's what we have to do. And knowing that most of these crises, actually, when you look a bit underneath, there are things like this. We are talking about Congo a while ago. There's nothing between Rwanda and Congo and the conflict thereof. There's nothing that is just Congo and Rwanda. Underneath, there is a volcano, yes, that you have to contend with. There are these external factors and actors and forces that are operating. So the moment you are conscious of that and keep finding ways to minimize the damage it causes, I think the better.
Mr. President, we'll take one more question coming in from William Wallace of Financial Times. He's asking what is causing the delays to the Washington summit with DRC. If it does go ahead next month, how confident are you in a peace that sticks?
Yeah, that's almost like another question I answered earlier, but what is delaying, I can assure you, does not come from or related to Rwanda. That's I want to confirm that. It comes from somewhere else. I don't know, maybe the one asking the question can keep trying to investigate, but nothing originates from Rwanda. But the question I answered earlier is, I mean, people, we have had so many meetings. Our delegations have met in Washington, and there is also, I keep bringing back Doha, there is Doha, but they discuss, they are near agreeing something, or sometimes they agree something, and then just out of that place, the next day, somebody is just it's in the open. It's not done quietly. Something, no, I want to do this until you have heard somebody say, we are not going to sign anything in Washington until Rwanda has removed forces from DRC. That becomes, but these are things that have been discussed even before we went to Washington. There was a discussion about that, whether in Rwanda or so. But then you are in Washington, we agree that, yes, there are a number of things that are going to be done by both sides, and this is the sequence, and they sign. our people, delegation, and the delegation from DRC sign. And then after that, the next day, whether still in Washington or back home, they say, no, we are not going to do this until now. They set different conditions until now. They set different conditions other than what was actually done and agreed in Washington. So this is what delays the things. So for us, we've been here waiting. There were many times we are hoping that they are saying that maybe beginning of December. I'm not sure that we are going to meet in Washington. I'm not sure whether tomorrow somebody doesn't say no. For me, I'm not going to Washington because either last night he dreamt or was told by a priest whether the backward, the old priests, the new ones, that it's a bad idea or it's a bad omen to do this. And somebody just says, I will not go. So what can I do? But we are still hopeful that maybe because those bringing us together maybe have some power to move things, but at least for sure they have the intention. So we will wait and keep hoping that it's not just about a trip to Washington, it's about making steps towards finding an agreement that can help us start a process that will bring peace to our region and to our countries.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now take a 15-minute break and come back.
Maybe 15 minutes or even 10, and then we... But you forced me into a break. I welcome it, and I welcome it anyhow.